Hello and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled Lure, Crafting, and Tactics. And I'm going to be featuring Chris Morris of Fisherman's Warehouse and Pelagic Picnic Lures. It's an online store. He himself resides in Carolina Beach. I'm your host, Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. And Fisherman's Post has been serving the NC saltwater fishing community since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, premium podcast content, and here in our latest and greatest effort, the Saltwater Podcast Series, where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their thoughts, their insights on how to catch more fish more often. And in this endeavor, every episode, I'm joined by podcast co-host David Harden of Harden Creative Media. And here we are in our seats again, David.
Oh, we are. Our headphones are on. The mics are on. We should just go ahead and do a podcast.
We should go ahead and do a podcast.
Yeah, I think we should.
And you know this. I don't know that my audience knows this, so I'm kind of revealing something here. But I sometimes struggle in the offshore arena. I am a little challenged in the offshore arena, so I hope Chris gives me information that I can follow.
Be gentle.
I don't want him to assume that I'm fluent. I need him to help me and my audience better understand offshore lures. I mean, this is going to be full of information. I feel it.
All right, well, that'd be great. Before we get started, let's thank our sponsors. First up, Port City Signs and Graphics. Sabrina and the crew, making stuff all over town.
Love those. Love Sabrina and crew. They've already done so much work for me this year already as a small business owner.
This is the part of the podcast where I show you two signs. You tell me which sign was made by Port City Signs and Graphics and which sign was not.
I understand the rules of the game.
Here is sign number one. It says, "I'm terrified of elevators and I'm taking steps to avoid them."
All right. Man, I'm not sure that's Sabrina, but it is clever.
It's a good one. Here's sign number two. It's a lovely vehicle wrap from Mr. Sparky, Electrical Service and Repair.
I've seen some of those TV commercials for Mr. Sparky.
So will they do the vans?
Well, they do a good job on the vans.
They look sharp.
That has pop, doesn't it?
They look sharp.
I like red and yellow contrast. I like a black outline. Man, they're smart. They know what they're doing.
They do. They do. You know who else knows what they're doing?
Who's that?
YourBoatMoney.com.
A recent
in
guest.
New Coast. That's true. That's true. The last podcast.
Yes. So Scott Bradshaw, YourBoatMoney.com. Here, I'm going to talk about him a little bit, but let's see that cool graphic you made. All right. Yeah, and when I talk about Scott, what I try to brand is like not a salesperson, a consultant. And I was looking through my notes, and I haven't been repeating sort of his theme, his catchphrase, "Never alone when you need a loan."
Oh,
that's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it's good. And hey, man, he lives in Hampstead. He's one of us. He fishes all the time, mostly offshore fishing. So again, any question about marine finance, any need for a boat loan, man, he will set you straight. And you can watch him in podcast action and get a feel for who it is you might be doing business with or who it is going to be in your corner.
That's right. Next up, we have Marine Warehouse Center.
Matt with Marine Warehouse, excited to give you guys a huge update. We're now carrying Seabourn and Spider boat line. Of course, we have the newest models of Carolina Skiff, Sailfish, Sea Chaser, and Pan Marine. With over 60 boats in stock at a Wilmington location, let's schedule a sea trial and let's get you on the water today.
Love those guys.
It's almost that time.
Well, interesting that you should say that. Actually, just today, now this is filming date, not release date, but just today I emailed Joel's service manager and said, "Hey man, this is going to be my last weekend playing with the boat. I'm going to pull the boat this weekend and drop it off to you Monday for its annual service. Am I cleared to bring it in?" And he said, "Come on with it."
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna do engine service. We're gonna paint the bottom of the boat, and I always have a few things to have them fix. And man, that's just what I try to spread the word, man. You know, I like to start every year with everything working on the boat. And Marine Warehouse Center, even though it is a old boat, man, they keep it in great shape. And once again, I predict I'll be starting the year with everything on the boat working just as it should.
Well, that'll be great. Your boat sits in the water, right?
Yeah.
So do you have like all that nasty stuff growing on the bottom?
Yeah, even when I paint it like every year, because our dock is in not in like a cove, but a lot of water rushes by in that Howe Creek. So stuff grows quicker than it would if I was in like a little cove or marina. But they take care of me, man.
Okay, cool. They knock it off.
And Terrell's been doing some spring work too, although he got confused.
Well, what's that?
Well, he got a new roof for his house, and he was a little confused about payment. He thought it was going to be a free roof, but it wasn't. He ended up having to pay. You know, his understanding was the roofing company said it would be on the house.
That's a good one.
Is it?
I
don't know.
I didn't know we were going on for a while there. I didn't know where it was going.
Way too much setup for that, and I didn't even really knock it. I didn't even give it a fair shake. But
no, it's all good.
But I blame Terrell, not me.
We love Terrell. Terrell's the best.
I hope Terrell does better next time.
If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, just call the Fisherman's Post office and we'll hook you up.
Yeah, and remember that if you're a fan of the podcast, you want to support the podcast, and there's a way you can do it. You become a premium content member, and all members get early access to every podcast. So you get to see every public podcast 1 week before public release. And then never available to the public is our bonus content feature, 12, 20 minutes or so of a continued conversation with each guest after the podcast ends. In addition, and then you don't just get podcast benefits, you also get access to our weekly inshore, nearshore fishing reports and forecasts. So, man, that is a lot of benefits for one price. Support the podcast, support Fisherman's Post, but I think we give you good value for that support, for that investment.
Sure thing.
And then also, David, just to remind you, I come back with my conversation about offshore lures, lure crafting and tactics. Then I'm looking for David's best takeaway.
Got it. The notes will be ready.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce to the show first-time guest, Chris Morris, Fisherman's Warehouse, Pelagic Picnic Lures. Again, an online store. He resides in Carolina Beach. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gary. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man, I like how this happened. We crossed paths at a Carolina Beach headboat, charter boat captain party. Started talking fishing and podcasts, and here the show came to fruition. But even with that backstory, we do not talk lure crafting and tactics. We don't talk about a single lure until you pass the 2 questions. So you tell me you're ready for question number 1. I give you question number 1.
All right, I'm ready for question number 1.
Question number 1. Why should anyone listen to anything you have to say about a fishing lure?
Well, we spend a lot of time recording the movements of our baits. We also make sure that when we are putting them out in the spread, that we put them in places where they're going to be most effective. And I guess at the end of the day, it's really just customer feedback. And I guess one of the biggest kudos I could ever get was from Bobby Earl with Wicked Tuna fame on Really Buggin'. And his comment was, we use their stuff because it raises fish.
All right. That is an acceptable answer to number 1. So that brings us to question number 2, typically my attempt at some levity. And so while I refuse to reference you as Crustacean Chris in the intro, I still refuse. I did pull question number 2 from Crustacean. So you have up to 2 crustacean questions. What is the name of the restaurant in SpongeBob SquarePants, the one owned by Mr. Krabs?
The Krusty Krab.
All right, so you're going to get the second one too then, I hope. The name of its famous sandwich?
The Krabby Patty.
All right. Man, you nailed it. You got both parts of question number 2. So on with the show. And I believe what we talked about is you're going to introduce us to one of your lures. You're going to tell us about its inception, its genesis, its development, and then tell us how to best apply it behind a boat.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
And the chugger is first?
Yeah, would you like to start with one of our chuggers? I think those are a great place to start. They're probably one of our most famous lures. Not the famous lure, but it's probably one of our top sellers. And
yes,
we make them in 2 different sizes. We make an 8-inch and a 10-inch, and the difference is really in the size of the head itself. So this is our 10-inch chugger. This is a cup face chugger, meaning it has a concave circular cup. And it's designed to hit the water, splash, take a burp, come back down, come back up. So that's why we have it as a cup. We've spent a lot of time with these all the way down to the abalone eye, the machine-weighted insert, and the skirt itself. So they're all double skirted. They're all tied properly. But these are great all around lures. You can trim them. You can leave them long. We rig them with ballyhoo rigs with ballyhoo. We rig them with a J hook. It's a great all around lure. I think probably one of my favorite lures for mahi. And we cut them down a bit smaller for mahi and sailfish. And I don't know, just a great all around lure. Any questions about this 10-inch chugger?
Yeah, I guess since you are the lure maker and not just the lure puller, so I guess I'm curious about, like, so you didn't invent the chugger, you just thought you could make it better, is that what I'm guessing? So, like, what are the main areas that make one chugger different than another that you isolated in your craft?
Absolutely. So when I started buying lures retail just as everybody else was, and I didn't like, and I discovered this through recording. I wanted to catch a fish and I wanted to see it caught on camera. So I have a small trolling camera that I drag behind the boat, and I can place a bait behind it. And as I was recording these store-bought baits, they weren't performing the way I thought they should in my mind, think like a fish, I guess, but they weren't performing the way I thought they should. So I wanted to see them dance more. I wanted to see more smoke trail, as they call it, more bubbles as they came back in the water. And through trial and error, I bought my first mold and I started pouring acrylic heads and tying on skirts that I was buying from other manufacturers and just testing them out. And through trial and error, we found lures that I think swim better than most lures on the market. And their catch rate is really just a testimony to that.
So that chugger you just showed us, how would you describe how it swims? Like, what did you improve?
So what I've done is, if you think of a cup-faced chugger, it is just a cylindrical head with a machine-weighted insert. So that's the insert where the eyeball is. That is machine-weighted. That's actually a 3-ounce weighted insert on this one. So we vary in different weights depending on how we want them to play. But what I've done with this one is I've actually added a deeper concave to the circular concave on the face and put a bit heavier weight. And I've actually moved this weight into a position that I can't really give you the exact measurement for, but I've moved it into a position where it causes the bait to dance more radically and cause more of a disturbance as it burps or comes up out of the water than, say, something you could buy from another manufacturer. So just in the head design, what we've done through trial and error at pulling them at different speeds and videoing them as we do so, we've taken a store-bought, regular chugger and perfected it by just tweaking it a bit. And again, we know that because they're catching fish. I mean, I have quite a few on the desk here that are chewed to show you if you're interested.
Talk to me about the skirt. Like, what about that? Is that just standard length, or did you have vision there too?
So what I wanted to do when I created the skirt is I wanted to create a lure or a bait that you too can customize. So I make this with a 10-inch skirt, so a 3.5-ounce weighted head. It's about an inch round, and the skirt itself is double skirted. So we have multiple colors. So we have your blues in the back, and then we have your purples over that. So this is actually a blue-purple color. And when we tie them on, we make sure that they're tied on tight so they're not going to rip off. We make sure that they're on there. But I leave them long because you have the option of fishing it however you want to. Here's a red one that I've cut short, and it's on a 9.0 ballyhoo rig hook. So this one I'll fish with a larger ballyhoo behind it, maybe for something like a sailfish. Where with some of the smaller ones, I'll cut them. Some I'll leave long and fish them with just a J hook. And we might do that somewhere in our spread for different species, depending on what we're looking for.
Okay, I follow that. Hey, you held up that one with the ballyhoo rig, and then you say you fish the other one. You can fish it with just a J hook. Now, yeah. It is my belief that my audience loves specifics. So walk me through how you would rig for ballyhoo, being specific about material, and then walk me through how you would rig with just J-hook, please.
Absolutely, you got it. So if I was to rig a chugger such as this with a ballyhoo rig, or if I wanted to use it for a ballyhoo, I make all my own ballyhoo rigs. All my baits are custom made to order. Whenever someone's interested, they either call me, they go online. Whenever that order comes in, I make them. I have a small inventory, but not much. But what I do is we make all our own ballyhoo rigs. And the reason we do that is we have a ballyhoo rig, and we have a ballyhoo rig open. So it's an open end with a crimp. So you can slide one of these down it, and then you could rig your ballyhoo. So if you're not familiar with rigging a ballyhoo, there's tons of videos on YouTube, and I have a video on YouTube of how to rig a ballyhoo. But we use a ballyhoo rig with a spring clip and a pin. So some people use wire, some people use a rubber band, some people will do it various ways to get the ballyhoo on there. But what we use is a spring clip nose cone with a pin and a chin weight. And then this is a 9.0 ballyhoo O'Shaughnessy long shank mustad hook. So
Okay.
gives you the option of fishing it with a ballyhoo on it or bait on it. So that's why we'll take a lot of these and we'll cut them shorter. So you can see this would be your bait, your hook sticking out of your bait. So you wouldn't have a whole lot of a horse ballyhoo covered here. Now we're fishing larger baits here. We're not fishing smalls or anything such as that.
Okay. So then I guess I would say ideally that cut short ballyhoo rig, when you had a ballyhoo rig, is most likely to catch what? And your favorite, if I had to nail you down to one color or two color choices and where in the spread, how would you inform us?
Absolutely. So we choose anytime I want to target a species that I think is going to eat a ballyhoo. I like to dress them up a little bit. So we'll put a chugger in front of it. It causes a whole different action. So as this is coming through the water and that ballyhoo's swimming back there, it's also going up, catching a breath of air, coming down, expelling all that air in the water and making that bubble trail as that ballyhoo swims down and then comes back up again for the next one. So anytime we're using a ballyhoo, we're actually looking for something that is looking for a ballyhoo. And the reason for the skirt and the chugger is just extra action. So that flappy tail is usually your enticement, where this is just giving you some, hey, I'm over here, come get me. So my favorite color, if I had to have one, is it's a pink tiger abalone. And this one's been chewed up a little bit, and cut short, but that is my favorite color. I'm a pink guy, and I would pull this short in the spread on one of my shorts, which would be probably off back left corner, close to the boat, almost in the prop wash.
Why?
Believe it or not, it'll get torn up there. And this one has been torn up.
You just have seen good results putting it that close. Is there any other explanation for why you would do that?
We've seen a lot of good results there, but a theory of mine is usually when you have pelagic predators and you're bringing in a fish, other fish are curious and they'll come up to almost the boat. So if you're bringing in a fish, you'll really feel that fish coming. As soon as he sees that boat, he's going to take another run. You get mahi that will come up with other mahi. You can get tuna that will come up with other tuna. And having that bait close to the boat, sometimes you can get a second hook up through that.
All right, so you reside in Carolina Beach. You're pulling that rig offshore Carolina Beach in the spring, the summer, and the fall, and you had to bet $20 on the spring, $20 on the summer, $20 on the fall. What fish is going to hit that? What fish is most likely to hit that off North Carolina coast in spring, summer, and fall?
Spring, you're going to get. I would go for some sailfish. You wouldn't even have to go too far offshore. Summer, we're probably going to be, doldrums of summer. I mean, summer's a tough one. So, I mean, if you can catch fish in the Gulf Stream in July, you're doing well.
Fair.
But
fair answer.
So I would say anything we can get in the summer, I would pull that, and I would pull it long. I would pull one long with just a J hook, which is just a standard hook. For instance, this is one of my stingers, but This is just a standard J hook. So we'll just put some beads and a standard hook. So we can pull it with a standard J hook, just to get that action back there. Or you may want to put a ballyhoo on it, cut it short. You don't even have to cut it short. You can leave it long. It just depends. Some people love to fish with meat. Some people just love to fish artificial. I give you the option of being able to do both.
Okay, so no ballyhoo. We're still targeting basically the same species. It's just more of a having variety in the spread, or having a captain that is more preferential to bait or no bait.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what about, I gave you a fair on the summer, but what about the fall?
In the fall, I would be pulling, in the fall, I would pull a whole spread of these if I could. I really would. I would pull, with the outriggers out, I would pull 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and then I would put something deep. Having those cup face chuggers up on the top and causing that action, we pick up a lot of wahoo that way, believe it or not.
If you've got final thoughts on the chugger, we'll hear final thoughts on the chugger. Otherwise, in my notes, I have cedar plug daisy chains.
Yeah, so chuggers, great option, great all-around option. We make them in multiple different sizes. So 8-inch, 10-inch, and all the way down to, these are kind of my favorite little mahi-mahi killers. These are 4-inch. So
okay.
Extra tiny. But yeah, so cedar plug daisy chain. Everybody knows about a cedar plug. Tuna darts, they call them. Everybody loves a cedar plug. Get it out there, tow it. It just swims erratically. We were filming our baits, and I found that it was swimming the way I wanted it to, but why couldn't we get a whole bunch of them to do it at the same time? So I created a 4-inch natural cedar plug daisy chain. This one's been fished a lot. I continue to use it. I target blackfin tuna with it consistently, and it hooks up. But the reason I did it, and it was in a video that we saw, is a tuna dart or an actual cedar plug is just erratic. It just goes all over the place. But when you have multiple, how are they going to know which one to hit? So most cases, the fish will always hit the one that's the weakest link. So, or another predator that appears to be another predator, they'll hit that one. Usually the one in the rear. But with your tuna darts going all crazy, we had to make sure that we had something that would work. The cedar plug daisy chain worked great, but with the addition of a green machine to it, which stabled the front 3 and left the back one to go erratic, it increased our hookup rate exponentially. Our last trip, and I don't mind telling you, to Steeples, we had 27 blackfin just on these.
Okay, I'm following. So if you, without the green machine lead off, then they're all erratic.
They're all erratic, and they go wild, with your last one being just kind of really swimming around, because I spaced them increments close, and extra long. So end up with different spacing. So this one actually has a green machine in it, but we go close, long. So you get the 3 stable, and then you get one that's really kind of moving back there and really working.
Okay. I follow that. So I guess walk me through, again, I like everything simple. I like it laid out, no assumptions. So
Absolutely.
For my audience, walk me through how we're rigging the green machine and then that cedar plug behind it, so we have no question.
Certainly, no problem. Anybody can rig a cedar plug daisy chain. The trick is the placement of it and where you get them in the proper spot to swim. So the standard cedar plug is just a 4-inch natural cedar plug. This hook is just shoved in the rear, but it's just crimped on there and shoved up into the plug itself. I don't want to pull it out and cut my finger. But it swims again like a regular tuna dart. So if you wanted to build one, if you wanted to make one, or if you wanted to purchase one, they are 3 cedar plugs, 1 green machine. So the green machine, if you're not familiar with a green machine, This is a tuna magnet. If you have never fished a green machine, get yourself one. I don't make them. They are made by Sea Striker, and they are amazing. But a green machine itself and a cedar plug daisy chain, this stables the front end of the cedar plug daisy chain and allows the two in the rear to perform even more erratically because of the stability of the one in the front. So as it goes, as this one cruises, this middle one is flying like crazy, and the back is pretty much dancing in circles. So really enticing anything that's moving.
So the green machine's behind a cedar plug and in front of two more.
That's correct. Where the standard cedar plug is 4 just going crazy all over the place. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
With 2 cedar plugs behind the green machine, you still find that they're striking at the last one, not the second to last one.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's an amazing. I guess it's a theory, but it's a proven theory because as we fish different daisy chains or dredge bars or anything like that, it's always the stinger that gets hit, which is what we want to mimic. Is we want to mimic either a weak, wounded bait fish that can't keep up with the school, or we want to mimic a smaller predator trying to eat the bait that the larger predator is coming after. They always hit the wounded bait fish or the smaller predator.
Okay. I guess my question then is not just where would you put it in the spread, but like if someone's watching this podcast and they're like, all right, Chris, I'm going to give you one shot. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to take it out on one fishing trip and it works. Then I'm looking at Fisherman's Warehouse and Pelagic Picnic much closer. What is that one fishing trip you want them to take it on, and where do you want it in the spread?
I would take it out in the break where there are tuna, and I would especially put it down. So you can fish them up top like a regular daisy chain on the top water, but I would take a trolling weight anywhere from 16 to 48, depending on how far you want it to get down, and drop it down in your spread. You're trying to mimic what tuna naturally want to eat, which is squid. So if you can get it down there where the squid kind of are, or where the tuna can see it, and you pull it down there, you'll get it. You can pull it up top and you will get fish, but it's much more effective either on a planer or a trolling weight and down deep.
Okay, so even on a planer.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get a big enough planer so it won't break the planer, sure. I fish it with a number 12 planer all the time.
All right. I'll leave it to you. Any final thoughts on that cedar plug daisy chain?
Cedar plug daisy chain. Get one. If you've never fished a cedar plug, give me a call. I will tell you all about how to fish them. They are one of my favorites. I learned that technique when I grew up in Southern California, is where I grew up fishing for tuna. And somebody taught me how to fish a cedar plug in Mexico. And ever since then, I never stopped fishing them.
All right, then we're going to move on to number 3 on the list, and it's another daisy chain. This is a Wahoo daisy chain and mini chains. That's what I have in my notes, right?
Yes, sir. So
right.
we've done the same thing with our Wahoo daisy chains. We've taken an item that we thought was fair and worked well, and through analysis and trial and error, we've created one that we think swims better, performs better, and outcatches most of the baits that are out there. And you'll get it back because we put it on wire. So, of course, we're fishing for Wahoo. We want to have something on wire. So we've designed 2 models. Again, they are designed to be fished with a larger ballyhoo. So this is an 8.5 ounce, this is a 6.5 ounce head on 49 strand, 275 pound tooth-proof wire with 4 dusters to mimic, again, some kind of a squid or something to mimic or more bait. And we've done the same thing on this. We've added a spring clip, ballyhoo rig, and nose cone so that you can rig a ballyhoo on this one. This is my own personal one. You can see it's got a little tarnish on it, but I fish these a lot. And again, just like with the chuggers, I like to leave it up to the customer or the fisherman or woman, whatever they want to do, to trim their own skirt, because I'll leave them long. But, a Wahoo doesn't want a mouthful of horsehair. So there is a fine line between where you cut it and where you don't. But we've taken that same thing and sort of perfected it. I pay extra special attention to the way I tie all of my ties there. They're all double tied, glued, and then held together on the head itself. But just a great all around big wahoo lure. There's a citation back behind me. It was the last one we caught on this. We caught it on a pink and white, 60 pounds. I caught it at 23 Mile Rock, if you're interested in where I got it.
That skirt at the end over the ballyhoo.
Yes.
Is that are you showing us your favorite colors, or what are your favorite colors?
So my favorite colors are purple and black, and I'll show you that on one of our mini chains. So this is like dad, and this is like son.
Okay.
So the mini chain, purple and black, is my favorite color for wahoo. I love it. I also love pink and white. I also love pink and blue, but purple and black seems to be my favorite. And what we've done is we've capitalized on the success of the larger one, and we've made what we call a mini chain, which we now discover in multiple colors, several species like. In fact, one that really loves these is false albacore, unfortunately, but they're great fun to catch.
Sure, I'm not a hater.
No, I'm not either. They're a lot of fun to catch. But so it's the same concept. It's still a ballyhoo rig on a skirt, but this is only a 2-ounce head. So this one has a lot more play action than, say, your 6.5-ounce head, which is kind of going to track more with just the ballyhoo swimming behind. This one's a little more erratic, and we've done that again by video and then seeing how they swim. And I like these. I have multiple colors. I didn't take the color out, and I couldn't find the color, but I have a color that's very similar to this 10-inch chugger that we use, and we pull it on top with no weight. We don't drop it down. We don't do anything with it. And the mahi really like it.
Will you please describe that color for my people that are listening and not watching?
Yeah. So the color of the chugger that I held up is a multicolored skirt. It's a yellow and blue tiger stripe skirt on the outside with a bright orange skirt underneath it. So it almost has that mahi color to it, that orange and yellow and green. And that seems to be a real attractant for them. We've caught several wahoo on the mini chains, but we like to pull them up top rather than drop them down. We take the big ones and we'll drop them down on a planer. And when I say drop them down on a planer, we'll put a good 20-foot leader, on there, and then the bait behind it. So it's not just connected directly to the planer of the daisy chain. You want to have some leader stretched out there so the fish isn't disturbed by the planer itself. But yeah, they're great. They're great baits. We offer them, again, I said a J hook. We offer them for bait and without bait. So some people prefer just an artificial. We also offer it with a paddle tail or a willow blade. So you have a willow blade that will spin around on the J hook itself, kind of mimicking the tail of a ballyhoo.
All right, I want to make sure I'm following. So do you offer ballyhoo and no ballyhoo with both the wahoo and the mini?
Yeah, with any bait that we sell, we can offer it with a J hook, which is just no ballyhoo, just a straight hook, no bait, or with bait, depending on the customer's preference. I'm a big bait guy, but then I love to fish big artificials like big minnows. So it's just really a preference. But what I find is the more meat you have in the water, the more hookups I receive, I believe.
Okay, so the mini you showed me, that wasn't a wire rig. That was a mono rig. Or was it a wire rig? That's
actually a wire rig. That's actually a smaller wire. So this is still a 49 strand wire, but this is only 175 pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, 49 strand wire. And what I've done is I've actually gone I source all my own materials and I build all my own stuff. And if I can't buy it, I make it. So what I've done is I couldn't find a suitable wire manufacturer that I like, so I designed my own. So we also have our own wire now. which is absolutely amazing. It doesn't rust, it doesn't stretch, it doesn't do anything. So
you might have just answered the question I was thinking of. It would be like, what was it that you didn't like about the wire you were finding, and what improvement did you want? I think you just gave me the list.
yeah, it was kind of it. I found lots of items on wire, and as we went through them, they would rust bad, or they would kink real bad. This won't kink. They would kink real bad, so it wouldn't fold up right. It wouldn't swim properly, and I had a hard time, and I won't name the competitor's wire, but when you cut it, it just frays apart, and you can't get it through a crimp, and it was just a mess. And I thought there's got to be a better way. My whole thing is build a better mousetrap.
All right, I think this is my last question. On that mini chain, where in the, I know you said on top, but where in the spread you like to put it?
If I'm playing it up top, I'm going to play it on my outside riggers, and I'm going to play it long. So I'm going to play 2 long, then I'm going to play a shotgun, but I'm going to put 2 here. If I'm going to play it down, I'll usually only play 1 because we don't want them to get all tangled up down below. But I'll play it on one of the corners, close to the boat. And I like to look at the angle of my planer. If my planer's out, and if you think about it, it's about 37 degrees if you want to know how far back to put it.
Okay.
Just look at it.
Yeah, I love specific. I like that detail. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on Wahoo daisy chain or the mini chain?
No, great. All around, good, solid lures. They're going to hold up well, and you're not going to get bit off. I mean, most of our items we fish on wire, including on mono, including some of our bigger lures for real toothy predators too. But with the Wahoo, with it down, with a daisy chain, I just prefer wire, and I think it's the way to go. And they catch lots of fish. They're great.
All right, then I'm going to transition you to, apparently this one lure caught a big fish at one point sometime, and now it's a big deal. The Mr. X lure. We saved it for last on purpose. Of course, I'm trying to ham it up a little bit at least. But let's go into the Mr. X lure. Like, tell me what we're talking about first, and then let's talk about.
So for your listeners who are listening and not viewing, and right now, the Mr. X lure is an 8.5 ounce slant-faced plunger that's 12 inches long with a 13-aught hook rigged on mono to a wire hook placement. I have one that has been chewed up. Never saw the fish, just heard the reel take off, and put it back out in the spread, and then said, why is this not catching anything? And pulled it in, and that's what we got back. So it was chewed up. Probably a large wahoo came up and just smacked it and got everything, got his teeth all over the mono, but didn't get the hook somehow, and that's a first. But this one's been chewed up quite a bit. You can see the teeth marks on it. It has caught a lot of fish before it got destroyed. But this is Mr. X destroyed, but this is actually Mr. X, and I'll pull up one of my favorite colors. This is the lure itself, 12-inch skirt, 8.5 ounce head. This is our signature series, and I'll tell you why these are so special. So this lure I designed originally as a sailfish lure. And as I was entering the lure market, I needed to get my name out there. So I started giving lures to everybody that would take one and say, please fish this. You'll like it. It works good. I promise. And I gave a couple away to charity organizations that are near and dear to me. And one is the CCA to auction off at their annual fundraising banquet. Well, a gentleman from Morehead City won it in the silent auction. And on day 2 of the Big Rock tournament, they didn't catch anything day 1. They decided, let's throw out that junky pink lure that we won at the auction and see if we catch anything. And this is the junky pink lure. This is the model. And they proceeded to catch a 46.2 pound bull mahi-mahi, which swept the whole small boat division, swept every pot except for the Blue Rock Big Marlin pot. And ended up winning $610,500, which set a world record for the largest jackpot ever for a single tournament caught mahi-mahi.
All right. That's a nice pedigree. That's a nice resume bullet point.
It was great. and since we continue to fish it, I have lots of other people that continue to fish it. There's a set of them going around the world right now with Bad Company. If you're familiar with Anthony Shea and Bad Company Fishing, there is a set going around the world, so we should see some amazing results from them pretty soon. But it's an amazing lure. It was originally designed as a sailfish lure, and we make them in multiple colors. We have 6 different colors. This one is hot. It actually glows in the dark. We've machined the head. We've tweaked the head from our original design. It is now the Big Rock Signature Series lure, Big Rock 2024, and we sign each one that we do now. So these are all custom. Each one, I would say, probably plays a little different than the other one, but they all have the same head action, which is great.
And what is that head action? What is the design action that you want, that you targeted when you put that to test?
Yeah.
When you put it to design.
Originally, I had what we call a blunt-faced lure. It was just square, and I called it a doorknob. I wanted something just to destroy the water, just really make a mess. But it kept, as we videoed it, it kept rolling and rolling, and then it would just do circles like this. So I thought, well, that's no good. So we cut the tip of it and made it a slant-faced, so it would still roll, but now when it goes through the water, if it rolls, the water hits it and it goes up, and it rolls the other way and the water hits it and it goes down. This plunger that we've made performs like none I've ever seen. I've videoed it many times. It makes a smoke trail second to none with no jets. There's not one jet in here, but the way that this lure comes off the top of the water and comes down and rolls and swims, all of that air in the skirt just comes out. I have video of it. It's absolutely amazing. So we took an original plunger and made it a slant face plunger, and then we tweaked the weight on it, and then we tweaked the placement of the weight on it because we wanted to swim a certain way, and really refined it. This lure is my most sought after lure now, and it's catching amazing fish in Australia. There's guys fishing them in Puerto Rico. There's guys catching big blue marlin on them in Hawaii. They're all over the place now. And it was purely by mistake that I cut that at that angle. But once we tweaked it and we got it to swim the way it is, it's great. I play this as long as I can. I'll put it at the shotgun and put it way out there. And it's a wahoo magnet, and we've got a lot of sailfish, and we got a bunch of blue marlin on it. So, I mean, it just depends. We make it in 6 different colors, depending on what you're targeting or what your time of day you're fishing. But you know, they're just all great all around lures.
So, does the Mr. X lure, you make that with ballyhoo or without?
So this one, and I'll pull up the hook placement again. These we do only with a 13.0 J hook on wire placement. This is a straight artificial bait. Okay. Now, I can do this on a ballyhoo rig, but you would be fishing very large horse ballyhoo on this lure. As you can see, it's pretty good size. I don't have real large hands, but that's a good 5 inches. And at least 2 inches around and 8.5 ounces. So it's a really heavy lure. And again, we do the same thing, and double skirts on all of them. I have had customers who wanted to choose their own colors, but so you can see this is a pink and yellow underskirt with a black and red outer skirt to give you that midnight blue and pink look to it. So okay. Yeah, it's an amazing lure. It catches a lot of fish. Originally designed to catch sailfish. We've caught a lot of sailfish on it, but what it seems to be catching now is a lot of wahoo in the long position.
Okay. I got a question. I'm hoping you can answer, without trade secrets or, sure, infringing on proprietary. You mentioned like the weight and, the weight forward or the weight back. So in general, is this even a real question? In general, how does the swimming action change if the weight's a little bit more forward how does the swimming action change as if it's a little bit more backwards?
Yeah, so that's great. So what we found is if we put the weight forward in a chugger or a plunger or anything like that, the bait kind of swims like this because it almost wants to pull it down like a chugger, like a planer. So it kind of swims down. As you tip the bait back, you can get the action of the actual slant or the cup to work in different ways. And you do that just by moving the weight back in the head. And that's really all it is. Now, where I put it to where it swims, I've tried. I've made 7 lures and gone out and fished them all in the same day and not like any of them, threw them all in the trash.
Okay.
So it just depends. Yeah.
So you've been sharing of information. I want you to be able to like promote yourself a little bit more. So talk a little bit more, I guess, about the website. I'm guessing the website's Fisherman's Warehouse, but like you've been talking about video. Like walk us through the website and what you offer on the website.
Sure. On the website, all of my offerings are there. All of my customs are there. Everything on the website is custom made to order. We are also on Amazon, where I have some items that I have mass produced myself that I don't even consider Pelagic Picnic lures. So there is Fisherman's Warehouse on Amazon doing a little business there. But everything here on the table and everything that you get from our website is 100% custom. You'll find all our baits there, all our Pelagic Picnic lures, from these little 4-inch chuggers all the way up to we make a 36-inch multi-directional spreader bar. So it's all on the website. If it says out of stock, don't worry. I can't keep up with the inventory on the website right now. So feel free to call the number, shoot me a message, whatever you need. I'm here to make them for you. I mean, I like to catch fish and I like to see other people catch fish. So I have no problem saying use this and use this here. Somebody calls me up, they want to know where to fish. I'll tell them where I fished yesterday. I have no problem with that.
And on your website, do you have some of those videos you've taken of your lures in the water being pulled behind the boat?
Yes, they are on the website. If you go to the About section, there's multiple videos there. The best one I think that's up there right now is our cedar plug green machine daisy chain. We were videoing an iteration of it, and as I was letting it out, it goes past the Mr. X as the Mr. X breaks the water and comes down with a smoke trail that you would not believe. And I slow-moed it so you can just watch it just dance and come down there. It's beautiful.
All right, man.
And we've got a lot of catch videos on there too. You know, we see us catch fish, so you can see those as well.
I like catch fish videos. Right on, man. Chris, I think we're at the end of your podcast, but like all guests, and just like I did after each bait, I'll just turn it over to you for like, final thoughts, wrap it up, your podcast, and I've enjoyed it.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary. It's been a lot of fun being on here with you. I really appreciate it. Anybody who's interested in quality custom baits, I make them to order. We do different color schemes if somebody's interested in different colors. We can actually even go down to, I did one for a gentleman where he had his boat name in the head of the lure. That's what he wanted. So we did that with my proprietary design and his design in the head. Our lures raise fish. I mean, they really do. We've been told that multiple times. There's many, many, many influencers out there. If you follow Crustacean Chris on any of the social media stuff, you'll see a lot of influencers that work with us that actually will promote our items and do so because they catch fish, not because we're paying them, because I don't pay anybody. I mean, I pay people, but not to promote my stuff.
All right. Well, Chris Morris, Fisherman's Warehouse, Pelagic Picnic Lures, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to wrap this up with David, but I'm looking forward to connecting with you for the bonus content. And again, my understanding, if I have it right, is as you are very supportive of the fishing community and development and all that, you're going to give some insight, some guidance to people who have perhaps a lure idea and think they would like to make it come to fruition. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we'll also talk about where to put that and what we're going to catch with it.
Right on. All right, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, David Harden, David's best takeaway.
Hello, Gary.
I know you're a little challenged by offshore fishing too.
It's not at the top of my fishing game, but I kept up for the most part with the conversation, and we talked about Blackman tuna. And what I took away from that is that there's a really good combination of something called a green machine with a cedar plug daisy chain. You put a planer on it or a trolling weight, and it's great for blackfin tuna.
Yes, you understood him correctly.
So that's what I take away. And then there was a lot of talk about the Mr. X, and it seemed really fancy. It was so fancy. I'm more of like a rubber worm on a hook.
Or squid in the Cape Fear River.
That's right, squid in the Cape Fear River. So that's right. So a little out of my element, but he was great. He was great.
Yeah, man. I liked how that podcast played out, man. Lore, here's how we put it together, and here's how you apply it in real life scenario. I thought it was good too.
Definitely. Well, so before we wrap up, let's thank our sponsors, Port City Science and Graphics, yourboatmoney.com, and Marine Warehouse Center. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, just contact the Fisherman's Post office and we will hook you up.
Yeah, and again, if you're a fan of the podcast and want to support the podcast, then please look at our premium content membership, early podcast release, bonus podcast content, and weekly inshore, nearshore fishing reports and audio video delivery. And David, thank you, man. Good times.
You got it.